You recognize this guy. You see him on the weekends on WNET. Neal Shapiro, our president and chief executive officer at WNET. Real 13.
Real 13. Real 13 has been an enormous hit ever since we've done it, but the most fun is doing those movie clips, doing the promos, because of all the things I get to do, that's the most fun, because sometimes I knew the movie so well. It's my chance to act with Humphrey Bogart, John Wayne, and Marlene Dietrich, which I will never get to do. But I say, here's the line I want, then I'm going to say this. That's enormous fun.
It works well.
It does, and you know, it's often among our most watched programs.
Yeah, it's in the way they come together. They're all very different films. Neal, there's so many things to talk about. It's been a while since we've had you on one-on-one. But one of the most interesting and important developments has been the development of MetroFocus, which has gone from a
monthly show to a weekly show and now to a daily show.
A daily show. We're about to show a clip. Describe it before we see a clip or a series of clips from MetroFocus. What is it?
MetroFocus really, I think, fills the gap. When you look at all the shows that are on in the tri-state area, commercial news does what it does. What I think MetroFocus does is fill in what it doesn't do. So it doesn't do traffic accidents. It doesn't do that kind of stuff. But it does the important news of the day. It does the deeper dives and the analysis that you expect from public television. And it taps into the excitement of the tri-state area. That means all the thought leaders are here. All the pioneers are here. All the legends are here. And the huge reservoir of arts and culture, they're all here too. And then we partner with great people. So, I mean, frankly, you're on the show. I saw you doing an interview. We'll see portions of that. So we have our other people, the WNET family are on the show. Right. And we've had other visiting journalists in. I think it's a really exciting platform. And the most exciting thing is we just started going daily, so we're still evolving.
It's really great. By the way, Neal just mentioned the fact that we just actually interviewed Marlo Thomas, who will be on the show. And one of my favorite interviews, Jack Ford did Angela Lansbury.
That's right.
Was one of my favorites, and Raphael Piroman, a great,
Flanagan. You know, one thing I should say about what makes the show fun is, you know, a lot of things in TV, as you know, you have the tyranny of time cues, right? They're doing Angela Lansbury and Bruce and Jack. This is great. Let's just keep going. And they did the whole show because it was her birthday.
I noticed,
right?
And I thought to myself, Jack's such a great interviewer, and I thought they're going to cut this off. And I said, no, they're doing the whole show, and it just sustained. It was great. By the way, we're talking about it. You should see it. Let's take a look at MetroFocus. It's on every day.
Can't help but wondering whether you ever say to yourself, I wonder if things had been different and I was making this pronouncement today that I am proudly a gay American, if your life would have changed as much as it did, or if people would have said, fine, well, you're still our governor.
You know, it's, you know, you don't know, but all I can do is to be grateful, to grow up in this time, to grow up in a time when my friend Mark Siegel just wrote a book, talk about traversing from a time when homosexuality is listed as a psychiatric illness to a time when, you know, people like Andrew Sullivan have been calling for gay marriage for decades, and to see it become a reality.
And so we have a problem. We have cooks making less than waiters. Fewer people want to become cooks because of that. And the waiters are the people getting the largest raise. So you solve this problem by eliminating the tip minimum at your restaurants, which you do by eliminating tipping, and you can pay everyone a more fair wage.
So why is Danny Meyer on the vanguard of this movement?
Well, he can afford to take the risk.
So, Neal, MetroFocus can be seen every night on WNET.
On 13, WIW, and NJTV. And, of course, online all the time.
Online all the time. Check out the website. Will be up in just 2 seconds. We'll put it up on the screen. Talk to folks, and Dave Brown, who is the executive producer, talk about how challenging it is to do a daily.
You know, the expression we use in TV is you have to feed the beast. Because every day, whether you're ready or not, it's ready for give us more content. So it's a challenge. He's got a great team down there. I think they've done exciting things. Sometimes they'll say, let's do a whole show on something. But this week, or as we're taping this, we're following up on all the events in Paris and the implications in New York. And they've done new shows every day. And they've really had to scramble to do it. I'm very proud of the kind of work they've done. And I'm proud because it's been smart. It's filled in some of the gaps you haven't seen elsewhere. It's the kind of thing that New York needs.
We also, excuse me, should make it clear, well, I mean, Neal is a media executive and former head over at NBC. I've always said this to you, you're a producer at heart.
Yeah, I love it.
And you share your ideas as to what needs to be done, and that's important, because a lot of media executives don't do that. That being said, you also think a lot about the way we distribute content. Talk about that, and talk about how important it is right now to distribute content in ways that people need to receive it and want to receive it.
It's a great point. And the world's changed so much, even in the time we've been in the business, from when there were just a couple TV channels to now this digital world we live in, where more and more people are watching it on whatever device they have. People are watching it on their phones wherever they go. They're watching it on their iPads wherever we go. There's a MetroFocus app where you can now watch the show whenever you want to. That's the way things are going. The thing that's changing about that is not only can people watch it on every platform they want, but sometimes they can customize it as they want to watch it. So sometimes when we put things up, we do a lot of authors, and sometimes we'll put just a highlight on MetroFocus, but we'll put the whole interview up. And sometimes we'll put it in pieces, so you can watch part 1 and part 4 and part 3 and then part 2 if that's the way you want to watch it. More and more consumers say, I want to take control of this. Even as producers, we might say, that's a crazy way to watch it. That's how they choose to watch it. And I think we have to be sensitive, especially to younger viewers who are used to controlling content in a way that we're not. When we grew up, there were very few channels. The only choice was to watch it when it was on. Now everybody can watch it when they choose to watch it. So a lot of our programs get big ratings when they're on. For most things in TV, still, the highest rating you get is the first time it plays when it's on live. But more and more, people get it on whatever device they have or on their digital device. That's why the ratings are now changing. So people don't just say, how'd you do on the first day? It's how'd you do +2, +3, +7, because they get all those ratings together.
The cumulative number.
Exactly.
But Neal, the other thing I'm fascinated by is we had the Sesame Street folks here yesterday when we were taping. Abby Kadabi was here, right? Right? She's great as always. She turned 4. Did you know that? And Jeanette Betancourt, it was great. But it had me thinking about the HBO situation, which I'm sure you've thought about. And here's my question. Are we going to, in public broadcasting, are we going to have to think more and more about the lines? I'm not going to say being blurred, but just being more creative and imaginative about not just staying in the game, but thriving and thinking about things differently.
Well, I think, yes, we have to think about things differently in all ways, and how we distribute, which we just talked about, and maybe how we fund. I think it's important, though, in the Sesame Street case to remember Sesame Street is a show unto its own. It's a pioneering show with an iconic brand name that no other show has. So that may be the case why HBO wanted that show. But this is not the case for most of our shows that we're going to be, I think, inundated by offers by other people saying, gee, we want your content too. The fact is, a lot of what we do is made for public television precisely because...
Only for public television.
Because it doesn't work commercially. The reason that arts and culture is so much a part of what we do is because if ABC, NBC, CBS, or Fox could do it and make $1, they do it. But they
there
can't.
it is.
They
and
can't.
because you know the commercial side and it headed up the commercial side, you understand that psyche.
Yeah.
They would have done it, they'd be doing it now.
Right. And I don't blame them. They're in the business of eyeballs. They're not in the business of souls. Right? It doesn't make a difference to them. Right? If you watch a totally forgettable reality show, that's fine. That counts, and advertisers are happy. Our shows are different. Right? They mean something to people. And we care about, it's harder to measure, but we care about the richness of experience. And whether there's shows like this where you hear smart conversation, or dramas, or history, or whatever it is, people come back, I'm sure they'll tell you, I saw an interview you did 5 years ago, it still stayed with me. I saw a play 7 years ago, I still think about it. I don't think people are thinking about who got kicked off the island 2 seconds after it happened.
No, they don't even remember. And the other thing that will never happen, and and when Neal and I talk, we try never to bash or trash our colleagues on the commercial side, but we know we're different, and this is the other way I know we're different. And it's not just that Saturday dedicated to everything about education that's great about education, but it's everything leading up to it. Talk about that day, what it is, and why it's so important.
Well, American Graduate Day, probably a great standalone example of something only we would do. Who else would take 7 hours of your airtime, your most valuable resource,
Nobody.
Right, and devote it to the issue of dropouts and getting kids to stay in school, and then partner with other nonprofits and say, we'd like you to come on, and you can use our airtime to get support for you. So, in fact, the last time we did it, we had two nonprofit groups on. After the show, somebody gave a check for $500,000.
$500,000.
Somebody else got a check for $300,000 because they said, I wasn't sure what you did. Now that I saw it, and I saw it on a trusted place, public television, I'm going to help you out. Well, that's not what commercial TV is in the business for, but we are a part of communities. We care not just about entertaining, inspiring people. We're a part of the fabric of it. And if we can do things like this show and spend time, we spent a year planning this show.
American Graduate Day is a year leading up to it.
And we get all these nonprofits, and a lot of things happen. Part is just by convening people. We've had, in our conference room, we bring groups together to say, what are we going to do on the show? And literally, people who do the same kind of work have never met each other. Because they're all in the foxhole doing their work. the fact we can bring people together and say, you know what, together we can do something bigger and better, that's something only public television can do.
Michael Kay was on the first half of this show. I got to ask you, 2016 Yankees, you say? Neal's a huge Yankee fan. Say, look, your entire expression changed.
Here's the problem. Here's what I do. Every year I go and
30 seconds.
Every year I go and think it's going to be a very tough year, and then I'm pleasantly surprised. So I think it's going to be a very challenging year, and I hope I'm pleasantly surprised.
And you're a big fan of Michael Kay's and the Yes Network.
Love them.
See, that was easy. It's going to be a big year for public television, a big year for WNET 13 and our WLAW, and NJTV, by the way, great year. Neal, thank you for allowing us to be here in the studio. See you guys next time one-on-one. That was great.
Great.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Oscar Health Insurance, Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, Johnson & Johnson, Valley National Bank, NJM, the Fidelco Group, and by the Russell Berry Foundation. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.